In February of 2007, investigators in New York reopened a grave that many believed should never have been disturbed. Buried beneath the frozen ground was the body of a man who had supposedly died of natural causes years earlier. His family had accepted the doctor's conclusion. His friends had mourned and moved on. But one detective refused to believe the story was over. Within weeks, that decision would expose one of the most disturbing murder cases the community had ever seen. It would reveal a woman who had already buried 2 husbands, collected life insurance money twice, and was preparing to sacrifice someone else to protect her secret. This is the story of Stacy Caster. Before we begin, welcome to Cold Case 247. If you enjoy carefully researched true crime documentaries based on real investigations, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Stay with us until the end because every new discovery in this investigation completely changed the direction of the case. Long before detectives suspected murder, Stacy Caster appeared to be living an ordinary suburban life. She was raising 2 daughters while trying to hold together a marriage that had become increasingly difficult. Her husband, Michael Wallace, struggled with alcohol and substance abuse. Friends later described the relationship as strained, with frequent arguments and long periods where the couple barely spoke to one another. Eventually, divorce seemed inevitable. Family members believed the separation would allow both of them to start over. Instead, Michael never got that chance. One day, he was found dead inside the family home. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but there was nothing they could do. Doctors concluded that Michael had suffered a fatal heart attack. At only 38 years old, the diagnosis surprised many people who knew him. While no one claimed he was in perfect health, his sudden death seemed unusually unexpected. Among those struggling to accept the explanation was Michael's sister. She believed an autopsy should be performed before the funeral. To her, there were simply too many unanswered questions. But Stacy strongly opposed the idea. She insisted her husband had already suffered enough during his life and argued that an autopsy was unnecessary. Without clear evidence of foul play, authorities had little reason to challenge her request. Michael was laid to rest. The investigation ended almost as quickly as it had begun. As the months passed, life slowly returned to normal. Stacy received the proceeds from Michael's life insurance policy, helping provide financial stability for herself and her daughters. Eventually, she met another man. His name was David Caster. The relationship moved quickly. Friends hoped this marriage would give Stacy a fresh start after the heartbreak of losing her first husband. For a while, everything appeared normal. But beneath the surface, problems were beginning to grow. David reportedly struggled to build a relationship with Stacy's daughters. According to people close to the family, he had little interest in becoming a father figure. The disagreements created tension inside the home, and over time, that tension only became worse. Then, in August of 2005, another emergency call brought police back to Stacy's house. This time, the circumstances were strangely familiar. Stacy told emergency dispatchers that David had locked himself inside their bedroom several hours earlier and refused to answer the door. Officers arrived expecting to help someone in distress. Instead, they discovered another tragedy. David was dead. As crime scene investigators carefully examined the bedroom, they noticed something unusual. Resting near the bed was an open container of antifreeze. Nearby sat 2 drinking glasses. One still contained traces of cranberry juice. The other would later test positive for antifreeze. The medical examiner confirmed that David had died after ingesting the poisonous chemical. At first glance, investigators believed they were looking at a possible suicide. Stacy explained that she had prepared cranberry juice for David before he shut himself inside the room. She denied knowing how the antifreeze had entered the bedroom. Her statement appeared consistent with the physical evidence available at the time. Without witnesses or forensic evidence directly linking her to the poisoning, detectives faced a difficult reality. Suspicion alone was not enough to charge someone with murder. The case appeared destined to become another closed file. But not everyone inside the police department was convinced. One investigator continued returning to the photographs, reports, and witness statements. Something about the entire situation felt wrong. Detective Gene Spinelli had investigated enough suspicious deaths to recognize when small details refused to fit together. The more he reviewed David's death, the more he found himself thinking about Michael Wallace. 2 husbands. 2 unexpected deaths. The same woman present both times. And substantial financial benefits after each tragedy. Individually, none of those facts proved a crime. Together, they painted a picture that was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Spinelli made a decision that would completely change the investigation. Instead of focusing only on David's death, he reopened Michael's case from the beginning. He read every report, reviewed every medical record, spoke with family members again. And one question kept returning. What if Michael had never died from a heart attack at all? That question would soon lead investigators to one of the most extraordinary decisions of the entire case. Detective Spinelli knew that reopening a death that had already been ruled natural would not be easy. Exhuming a body is never a routine decision. It requires strong justification, legal approval, and the willingness to challenge conclusions that had already been accepted by doctors and investigators years earlier. Still, the similarities between the 2 deaths were impossible to ignore. Both men had died unexpectedly. Both deaths happened while they were married to the same woman. And in both cases, Stacy had benefited financially afterward. After obtaining the necessary approval, investigators ordered Michael Wallace's body to be exhumed. For Michael's family, it was another painful chapter. They had already buried a son and a brother. Now they had to watch investigators reopen wounds they believed had finally begun to heal. Forensic specialists carefully examined the remains. They searched for anything that could explain why a seemingly healthy man had died so suddenly. The laboratory results stunned everyone involved. Michael's body contained evidence of ethylene glycol, the poisonous ingredient commonly found in antifreeze. The same substance that had been found in David Caster's body. Suddenly, what had once appeared to be 2 separate tragedies became something far more disturbing. Detectives now believed they were investigating 2 murders. But proving that someone had been poisoned was only part of the challenge. They still needed to prove who had administered the poison. Investigators returned to the people who knew the family best. Friends described Stacy as calm after both deaths. Some remembered that she seemed unusually focused on practical matters shortly after each funeral. Others recalled how quickly life appeared to move on. None of these observations proved guilt, but together they began forming a clearer picture for detectives. Investigators also reviewed the financial records connected to both deaths. Life insurance payments, inheritance records, and family finances became part of the investigation. They wanted to understand whether there had been a motive beyond the suspicious circumstances. As the investigation expanded, Detective Spinelli decided it was time to speak with Stacy again. Unlike their earlier conversations, this interview would be different. This time, investigators knew much more than they had before. The interview began calmly. Detectives allowed Stacy to explain the events surrounding David's death once again. She repeated the same version of events she had given previously. According to Stacy, she had prepared cranberry juice for David before he locked himself inside the bedroom. She insisted she never saw him drink antifreeze and had no idea why it was found beside the bed. For several minutes, the interview remained almost conversational. Then Detective Spinelli placed a crime scene photograph on the table. The picture showed the 2 glasses recovered from David's bedroom. He asked a simple question. "Can you show me which glass contained the cranberry juice?" There was a brief pause. Stacy looked closely at the photograph. Then she answered, "I poured the antifreeze. Almost immediately, she stopped speaking. "I mean, the cranberry juice." The correction came within seconds. But the damage had already been done. Detectives exchanged quick glances. No one interrupted her. No one reacted dramatically. Instead, they allowed the silence to fill the room. Sometimes, investigators know that saying nothing encourages a suspect to keep talking. Stacy insisted she had simply misspoken. She claimed anyone could accidentally use the wrong word during a stressful interview. But investigators were no longer convinced. For Detective Spinelli, it was another piece of a puzzle that had been coming together for months. The interview ended without an arrest. Even with the slip of the tongue, prosecutors still wanted stronger evidence before filing murder charges. As pressure mounted around her, Stacy's actions became increasingly desperate. According to prosecutors, she came up with a shocking plan. Instead of defending herself, she would place the blame on someone else. That someone was her own daughter, Ashley. Investigators later alleged that Stacy secretly gave Ashley a drink containing sleeping medication. Once Ashley became unconscious, Stacy placed a typed confession nearby. The document claimed Ashley had murdered both Michael Wallace and David Caster. If Ashley died, investigators might believe she had confessed before taking her own life. It was a plan that depended on one terrible outcome. But it failed. Ashley survived. When she regained consciousness, she immediately denied writing the confession. She told investigators she knew nothing about it. The confession itself quickly raised more questions. It had been typed instead of handwritten. Digital forensic experts examined the family computer. Their analysis uncovered saved drafts of the confession letter. Even more damaging were the timestamps attached to those files. The documents had been created while Ashley was away from home. Investigators now had evidence that someone else had prepared the confession before Ashley ever became ill. Combined with the forensic findings, financial evidence, and Stacy's own interview, prosecutors believed they finally had enough to move forward. Stacy Caster was arrested. Her trial attracted widespread attention. Prosecutors argued that she had poisoned both husbands with antifreeze to gain financially and later attempted to frame her daughter when investigators began closing in. The defense maintained that the deaths were being misinterpreted and that the evidence was circumstantial. Jurors spent days listening to testimony from detectives, forensic experts, medical professionals, and family members. They examined laboratory reports. They reviewed computer evidence. And they heard the recording of Stacy's interview. Piece by piece, prosecutors reconstructed the investigation that had transformed what looked like two unrelated deaths into a double murder case. After deliberating, the jury reached its verdict. Stacy Caster was found guilty of murdering David Caster, attempting to murder Ashley, and, under New York law, was also held responsible for the death of Michael Wallace. She received a lengthy prison sentence. For Michael's and David's families, the verdict could never erase the pain of losing their loved ones. But after years of unanswered questions, they finally had something they had been seeking for a long time. The truth. This case remains one of the most remarkable examples of how experienced investigators can uncover hidden crimes by refusing to ignore the smallest inconsistencies. If Detective Spinelli had accepted the original reports without asking difficult questions, Michael's death might never have been re-examined. David's death might have remained classified as a suicide. And the truth could have stayed buried forever. Sometimes, justice doesn't begin with a dramatic confession or a breakthrough piece of technology. Sometimes, it begins with one detective who simply refuses to stop asking questions. If you've stayed with us until the end, thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to Cold Case 247, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next true crime investigation. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, some secrets remain hidden for years, but the truth has a way of finding its way to the surface.